And I'd also like to talk about the relationship between Trump and Zelensky. Let me remind you that Trump promised to inform Volodymyr Zelensky first about the results of his talks with Putin. Moreover, the American president is counting on a trilateral meeting with the Ukrainian leader and the Kremlin representative if the negotiations in Alaska turn out to be constructive. In Washington, they are already looking for a place where they could meet at the end of next week. Past meetings between Zelensky and Trump have sometimes ended unpredictably. There were demands, public quarrels, and later reconciliations. Overall, just like with Putin, they had 6 face-to-face conversations. How did Trump and Zelensky build their relationship, and why was it not always possible to find common ground? Our correspondent, Oksana Tkachenko, looked into this issue.
He went through an absolute hell, and his entire country went through a similar hell like no other country on earth.
Well, I hope we have better relations.
You are not in a strong position, not in a very advantageous one since the beginning of the war. You are not in the right circumstances. You don't have a trump card in your hand.
I'm not playing cards here.
Summer of 2019. Zelensky has only been president for 2 months. Trump has a little over a year left in his first term. His mind is on the new election race, and he is actively looking for ways to eliminate his main opponent, Joe Biden, from it. The very first phone conversation immediately sparks an international scandal that nearly leads to Donald Trump's impeachment, as he is accused of allegedly pressuring the Ukrainian president and trying to dig up compromising material on Joe Biden's son, Hunter, who previously worked for a Ukrainian energy company. An hour and a half after that phone call, the White House freezes financial aid to Ukraine. Kyiv found itself at the center of political infighting among the highest echelons of the US establishment.
When I met with President Zelensky during the inauguration, perhaps the most important advice I gave him face-to-face was not to let himself get drawn into American politics. Some thought they could navigate this situation thanks to their skill at playing the game, but they can't. Even the shrewdest American politicians can't. It's even a bit narcissistic to think you can get out of this. This shouldn't have been done. They should have stayed out of it.
That phone call wasn't about bilateral relations. It was about Donald Trump's concerns that Ukraine was working against him. He wanted to get to the bottom of it and essentially said, if you, Mr. Zelensky, do this, then I'll do some good things for you as well. A favor for a favor. That was clearly stated in the conversation, and as a result, I realized that Ukraine wouldn't receive aid until his demands were met.
September 2019. Zelensky goes on his first official trip to the United States and will meet Donald Trump face-to-face for the first time on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. But while the Ukrainian president's plane was crossing the Atlantic, Trump ordered the release of the transcript of their phone conversation. Now, all the media's attention is focused entirely on him. At their face-to-face meeting, Trump essentially forces Zelensky to say on camera that there was no pressure over Biden and that he has no complaints.
President Zelensky, did Donald Trump pressure you to investigate Joe Biden and Hunter Biden?
I think you've already read everything. You've read the transcript. Sorry, but I genuinely do not wish to interfere in the democratic, openly conducted elections in the United States of America. I believe it is crucial to respect the sovereignty and internal affairs of other nations, especially concerning their significant national elections. You heard, we had a good phone conversation. We talked normally about many things. I truly think, and you have certainly read it, that absolutely no one pressured me at all.
So there was absolutely no pressure at all, boys.
This was the first and last meeting between Zelensky and Trump during this term. A year before the new elections, they never met face-to-face. Trump's rival, Joe Biden, ultimately wins the election, and Kyiv openly sympathizes with him. The year is 2024. In Ukraine, the Russian invasion is at its peak, while in the United States, the election race is in full swing. The public stance from Bankova, Ukraine is ready to work with whoever comes to the White House. Therefore, when Volodymyr Zelensky heads to the United States for another visit in September, the plan includes equally important meetings with both the Democratic leader Kamala Harris and the Republican leader Donald Trump. On the way to New York, Zelensky visits a munitions factory in Pennsylvania, where he is accompanied by Democrats. The Republicans do not ignore this visit and claim it constitutes election interference. They even demand the dismissal of the Ukrainian ambassador Oksana Markarova. The personal meeting with Trump is put at risk, but ultimately does take place.
I want to discuss with you where we stand together. I think we share the common view that the war in Ukraine must end, that Putin cannot win, and that Ukraine must prevail. And I want to discuss with you the details of our victory plan.
We will work very diligently and collaboratively with both sides to try to effectively resolve this pressing issue and definitively settle it. This situation absolutely has to come to an end. At some point, this truly has to conclude. He has been through hell, and his country has been through hell like no other. We have a very good relationship, and I also have a very good relationship, as you know, with President Putin. And I truly think that we will indeed win and resolve this situation very, very quickly. What?
Well, I hope that we have better relations.
Absolutely. But it takes two to tango.
But both Trump's opponents, his former friends and analysts all agree on one thing. In reality, he admires the Russian leader. In Kyiv, they continue to maintain a line of respect and neutrality. And when, a month later, Trump wins the election, Zelensky sends him congratulations and expresses hope that the new president's approach will break the deadlock in this war.
I appreciate President Trump's commitment to the peace through strength approach in global affairs. It is precisely this principle that can truly bring a just peace closer in Ukraine. I hope that together we will make it a reality. We look forward to an era of a strong United States of America under the decisive leadership of President Trump.
The first meeting after Trump was elected, but before his official inauguration, took place through the mediation of Emmanuel Macron in Paris, where world leaders had gathered for the reopening ceremony of Notre Dame after its restoration. The trilateral negotiations lasted 35 minutes, and there were no statements afterward, except for Zelensky's post on social media.
A good, productive meeting with President Trump and President Macron. President Trump, as always, is determined. We talked about our people, the situation on the battlefield, and a just peace for Ukraine. We all want to end this war as soon and as justly as possible. We agreed to keep working together. Peace through strength is possible.
Even before the inauguration, Trump appoints special representatives Steve Witkoff and Keith Kellogg. It's clear to everyone that this issue can't be resolved in a mere 24 hours. Trump has always stood out for his love of simple solutions and quick deals. So it became increasingly difficult for him to hide his irritation with the topic of Ukraine. More and more often he makes statements that the war started because of Biden's predecessor, who promised Kyiv NATO membership. Then Trump reproaches Ukraine, claiming that Americans have spent $350 billion on it, even though this isn't true. Eventually, he even starts criticizing Zelensky himself.
The situation has arisen that there have been no elections in Ukraine. We have martial law, essentially there is martial law in Ukraine, and the leader, it's unpleasant for me to say this, but his approval rating has dropped to 4%. Why shouldn't the Ukrainian people say that we haven't had elections for a long time?
At this very time, the president's office on Bankova was planning a visit by the president to the United States. But a message came from the White House. Zelensky was not expected there. Emmanuel Macron took on the role of mediator and persuaded Trump to receive the Ukrainian president after all. What happened next was seen by the whole world.
Why aren't you wearing a suit? Do you have a suit?
I'll wear it when the war is over. Maybe one like yours, maybe a better one, maybe a cheaper one. We'll see.
You're not in a strong position, not in a very advantageous one since the start of the war. You're not in the right circumstances. You don't have a trump card in your hand.
I'm not playing cards here.
No, you are playing cards. You are playing with the lives of millions of people. You are playing with the prospect of a third world war. What you are doing is disrespectful to this country, a country that has supported you far more than many thought necessary.
The purpose of that visit, among other things, was supposed to be the signing of a minerals agreement. But that never happened. Afterwards, the world press would write, "Never before in American history has the President of the United States treated the head of a foreign state this way, let alone the leader of an allied nation." European leaders expressed their support for Zelensky. In Washington, after the public quarrel, they resort to a tried-and-true method, freezing aid to Ukraine and, moreover, halting the exchange of intelligence. They will meet again only at the end of April, at the funeral of Pope Francis. Without cameras and in a symbolic place, the St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. The conversation lasted only 15 minutes, so as not to repeat previous mistakes. A very symbolic meeting that has the potential to become historic if we achieve common results, is how Volodymyr Zelensky described it. The next time the politicians will meet will be on the sidelines of the NATO summit in The Hague on June 25th. 50 minutes, and once again, without journalists. Here, Trump has already significantly softened his rhetoric, and a number of European leaders, as well as NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte personally, have worked on this. After speaking with Zelensky, the US president unexpectedly expresses his sympathy to a Ukrainian journalist whose husband is at the front, and promises to look into which Patriot air defense systems they could provide to protect against Russian attacks.
Is your husband in the military?
Yes, he is in the military.
Is he there now?
Yes.
That's sad and difficult. Here's what I'll tell you. They really want those Patriot systems. We'll see if we can get a few. They're hard to get. We need them too. We're supplying them to Israel. They're 100% effective. It's hard to believe, and they want them more than anything. That's a very good question, and I wish you luck. I can see how upsetting this is for you.
In July, after Putin regularly shells Ukraine, Trump will issue Russia an ultimatum and give them 50 days to reach a peace agreement. Otherwise, he threatens severe sanctions. The shelling continued. Trump shortens this period to 12 days. And on the day when the whole world was waiting for the sanctions to be imposed, he suddenly announces that he is ready to meet with Putin. The American president promises that President Zelensky will be the first to hear about the results of the talks with the Kremlin leader.
I will meet with President Putin, and we will see what he means. If it is a fair deal, I will tell the leaders of the European Union and the leaders of NATO, as well as President Zelensky, about it. I think out of respect, I will call him first and then them. And I might say, I wish you good luck. Keep on fighting. Or I might say that we can make a deal.
And Washington will also work on organizing a trilateral meeting between Trump, Zelensky, and Putin. According to the American press, they are looking for a venue for it next week. Oksana Tkachenko, Koshelenko. TSN on Plazin, Marathon, United News.